What's up, folks? Today we're going to be looking at that wiper motor that I pulled out of the car the other day. The one that was bad, or at least didn't work. I can't say it's bad. That's what we're trying to find out here. We may be able to fix it. Who the hell knows? I took it out, cleaned it up. This arm is loose, like, sorry, it's not loose, but it's not seized, and when I roll it or move it, I can feel the resistance from whatever gears or whatever spinning in there. I can't really feel it in the motor if I hold on to the motor though, but it feels like everything is still connected as normal. Obviously this will go through a gearbox, probably a major torque multiplication going on in there. That's why it's so hard to move it on this side, but it doesn't work when powered by the relay. So first thing, we're actually just going to check the motor for resistance and see what we got, see if it's gone. Are you gonna stay? Please stay. I don't think it really wants to stay there. Sure, we'll try that. Be gentle. Alright, go into resistance mode. Alright, so if I remember correctly, pin 1 is ground. Pin 1 is the one my black probe is on. The second probe is the reset position. Third one is motor high speed, I believe, or motor low speed rather. Let me get on there a little bit better. Okay, 37.5 ohms, and then the fourth pin is high speed, I'm pretty sure. So 34.5 ohms as well on that one. So I mean, it is reading something, but it's weird. It doesn't do anything when it's powered. But we're gonna try to power it right now with 12 volts and see what happens. So I will put the meter in current mode. Hopefully it's not more than 20 amps. We'll see what happens though. So I have a power supply. Well, it's actually 12 volt lithium phosphate battery on my right, hooked up to two probes. So I got the negative probe here, and then we'll use the positive probe on the meter for the current sensing. So I'll take my negative very gently, very gingerly, put it on the ground pin, and then with the positive, right, I just do that right correctly. Yeah, positive. Alright, negative to the low speed, nothing, 0.017 amps, and negative as well, which is weird. And then yeah, once again the same 0.16. So it's not taking anything, which is odd because it's still reading on the resistance. So I mean, it's not like it's fallen completely open, and it hasn't drawn a dead short either, because it would have just, like, the current is technically infinite, right? So the fact that we didn't see that is either a good sign or a bad sign. I really don't know what's going on in here in terms of like the reset circuitry. I don't know how it works in here. We're gonna find that out right now. Take it apart and get to the bottom of this. Now, I think we're just gonna start with this plate and see what happens. I believe it is a T20. Grab a T20. The screws aren't that stuck. One thing I also noticed when I pulled this motor off, that there's markings on it. That car's an 07 525 XI, and this came off an 08 525i. So this motor's already been, well, the original motor was replaced once already. I'm assuming that was the previous owner, because I didn't do it. So either the previous owner themselves, or they probably had a shop do it. Maybe. Who the hell knows? Come on, you awkward bastard. Alright, so just gently pull up, and ta-da! Well, there really isn't much going on here. It's pretty simple, actually. So there are the 2 points for the reset. So one moment here. So 2 pins to the motor. 2 pins to the motor. What are these 2 prongs doing? When they're down in there, they're not doing anything as far as I know. There's 2 contacts going to there. Yeah, so these 2 short ones definitely aren't doing anything. You can see they're shorter because there's just these 2 pins that go to the motor. Where is the motor getting its ground from? Is it just grounding here? Is that what those 2 pins do? Anyways, what I believe is going on here, we have these 2 contacts here, and I believe this is for the reset. So when the motor spins around and gets to this contact point, and those contacts, they contact with both of these, so it bridges these 2, and I'm assuming that's what sends the reset signal to let the computer know when to stop, and also to let the computer know whether or not the motor's working, because I guess after a certain time it doesn't see that reset command come back, it will disable power to the relay, and that's just to protect it from the bad motor, whether or not it's a short or something. It prevents damage, which is what I was dealing with before I replaced this. So let me just look at this for a minute and try and make out what's going on here a bit better. Alright, so I can't see anything more than what we can obviously see here. It's kind of all under this plastic, and it's kind of it's got welded tabs on the inside, so I would have to break those. So let's try and avoid it, because most likely it'll just be this motor has to be replaced. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna figure out what's going on here with the multimeter. I will put it in beep 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 mode. Should also swap the probe over. Put that down. Move that over. Put it in beep 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 mode. So the second pin in here, if you look at it the same direction, is the reset. So we're gonna try and figure out where the reset is going to. Yeah, so the reset only goes to one side. So that is exactly what's happening here. So, So, as you can see here, we got continuity from the second pin in the harness to this side, but nothing to this. So that's exactly what's happening when this makes its way around and bridges these 2 together. That will send the reset command from here through to here, which I have a feeling this is just a ground This will just be a ground, so I'll test it on the first pin. And yeah, that's just ground. So this is bridging ground to here and sending the ground signal back through the second pin to indicate that it's in the reset position. So that's interesting. Now we gotta figure out these two pins here. So I know we will check the last pin if I can find it in here. So the last pin is the one on the right there, and then second to last pin is the one on the left. So let's just see if this is also ground. It is not ground. Oh, oddly enough, that is the last pin, so that is actually getting positive 12 volts. But that, yeah, okay, good. That doesn't go to anything, but I don't know why they would have 12 volts going to these. I see no point. Like the positive 12 volt signal, unless it's just a identical design for multiple different motors. But yeah, this doesn't go into anything. They just float in the breeze. They literally float in the breeze, because there's those two longer pins that connect to the motor there. These ones are on this side of them, so they would be in this cavity where my left thumb is there. I don't see the point of that. If anybody has any idea, please let me know why in the hell they would do that. Anyways, moving forward, I did just see this flathead screw. I'm assuming that's to adjust the low position. Alright, so after a bit of research, I don't have a fucking clue. I'm just assuming that they're using it as like a bushing cap, because it does appear to be PTFE, so it would make sense that they're just using it as a bushing cap for the end of the motor shaft there. But yeah, I tried playing with it. It didn't adjust anything. When I loosened it, it just came off. It was a cap. And then I googled it, and Google didn't have any information for me. Oof. Alright, one sec. Oof, I could move that before. Oh jeez. Alright, maybe that's it, because I believe I tightened it a little too much. So it is a flathead, so I'm gonna try that. Loosen it off a bit. Alright. Okay, there's a bit of slop. There's a bit of slop now. So, if I tighten this down just a little bit. Alright, so the slop is gone, but now it's too tight. So let's just loosen it a touch. Ooh. Loosen it a touch more. Yeah, so I don't know. It appears to be some sort of stop or a bushing cap. It does kind of change the way the shaft moves, but I don't think that's intentional. But once again, I don't have a fucking clue. Alright, so let's just continue on. If I do end up finding a motor to fix this, I guess another thing will be what the shaft looks like on the actual motor, if that is the actual shaft. I guess we're gonna have to find that out, so let's just take this motor off, which is also T20. There's a bit of pressure, which I kind of expected. Not much though. Now, is there gonna be a bunch of what the fuck? Aha. Aha. I do not think... Sorry, let me bring this into focus. You see that one brush right there? I don't think I just did that just now. I believe that was like that. So, we may be able to get this going again. Oh, so if my theory's correct, then this is the ground. Because there is two brushes here. I'm assuming one of them is a high speed, one of them is the low speed. So the reason why both of them would work, the reason why both of them don't work tells me that this must be the ground. So I believe they actually just ground it to the chassis, so this will be easy to check. Let me just put one probe in the screw hole. Look at that. I believe we're going to be able to fix this. I was not aware that this motor was like this. Personally, I've actually never seen something like this. I thought this was going to be just a motor. Now, I don't want to pull this out. Is it going to hurt it? Oh, I hope I don't regret this. Ooh. I don't think I'm going to regret that. That does actually need some cleaning. There's a bunch of shit in there. So I will give that a vacuum. That is interesting. Very, very interesting. And cool to see. The motor is not an all-in-one unit. So I am going to give where the brushes contact a good clean. Probably just with rubbing alcohol. I don't want to mess with it too much. Yeah, I'll give this all a good clean. And then we will put it back together, and I believe just put that brush in, and I think this is good. Interesting. I'm assuming, looking at these cuts here, I'm assuming that was for balancing purposes. Which is pretty cool, I think. Awesome. So when cleaning it, I pulled out all the springs, all the brushes, and one thing I noticed, you can see the groove on the side of that one brush. I went around and checked. The other ones do not have the groove. They're perfectly fine. So I don't know if that was intentional or if that got rubbed off by the side of the casing it was in. And it's possible this brush was getting stuck. But that would have only explained one of the speeds not working. That's one observation. So I'm going to clean out all of the brush sleds, or whatever you want to call them, or whatever they are called, and make sure they are clean, and make sure that everything is slippy slidey, nicey nicey. Alright, so I cleaned up all of the internals. I did wipe off the grease on this reset contact, because there's no reason for grease to be on there. There is some abrasion there, but you do want a good electrical contact there. I did redistribute the grease that was balled up back there, which made me realize that plug may also be for adding grease to this housing. So there's that. I cleaned up all of the brush sleds with some rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip. So hopefully there's minimal resistance and all of the brushes will slide nicely. So we also don't know the reason why and if for a fact that this ground brush did come out. And if it did in fact come out on its own, it may just mean that these brushes are getting too short to stay in the sled on their own. And if that's the case, the longevity of this fix won't be quite there. So I mean, if that is the case, I'll probably just need to replace the brushes, and this thing, other than that, looks pretty brand new. But we're going to try this for now, and I will use this as a backup. I do have another E60 which has wipers acting up, and it does seem like the reset contact isn't working correctly because the wipers don't always stop in the same position. So this might go into there, and I will be able to test and see if this brush fix lasts a while. Alright, so I did notice after I pulled the brushes out that they did not want to stay in their cavity on their own anymore. So we may have that issue here putting it back together. Alright, let me do some brainstorming and see if I can figure out a way. Like, I believe if I can somehow have this wire held back while we put the motor, while the shaft, the rotor, in there. I believe that's what we're gonna have to do. So let me get the rotor cleaned, the commutators cleaned up, so it's ready to go back in there. Alright, so I got the commutators kind of clean, about as clean as they want to be. I don't think there's going to be any issue with connection there. It should be fine, honestly. So I'm going to put this in a bit different. I'm going to leave the back housing off and put the rotor in this way, because I gotta try and this one should be easy. So it's probably best, I don't want grease on my fingers, getting grease on that rotor. I'll start with the harder ones. Okay. Going to try and hold that with the side of my thumb. Okay, so I believe I got the two locked up with the rotor on its side there on a bit of an angle, so I should be able to push a single brush in and get it to go down. Okay, and there is a bit of spring tension there, but if we try and look closely here, those brushes look fairly tight in their sockets there, so I don't see any reason why that would pop out. So it is possible that that ground popped out when I pulled it out. So I'm just gonna temporarily put this back on. So I'm gonna try and hold this rotor in place kind of with my thumb. I'll use my thumb on that wheel because yeah, that's gonna want a magnet big time. And then I'm just gonna screw this back down. I do have to remove it again just to put some gasket maker under there, because the gasket that was there is fucked. Kind of seems too easy that would work. I have a feeling there might be no, because I got a resistance reading, but it could have been those copper coils that were wound that you've seen for the high and low speed. We'll put this back on, just in a way that nothing is going to blow apart if this motor does work. Alright, so my camera died there, but I got the screws back on. So now let's get this tested. Alright, let's get the alligator clip for a ground right in there. Since I know the RSK is a ground, I'm not too concerned if it touches that last pin. Oh. Alright. There's slow speed there. 1.2 amps. High speed there. 2 amps. 2.1 amps. Alright. So it works just fine. Now what does confuse me is why if that ground brush did come out, why did it come out? The brushes look tight in there. And if the ground brush didn't come out and it was that other brush that had the groove rubbed in it, if that got caught on the wall, I'm not sure what's stopping it from getting caught on that wall again. So I am tempted to pull this apart again and grind down the side of that brush so there's no lip anymore, so it slides back and forth freely and doesn't have a chance to, because say the lip is right here, say the lip is the crease of my finger, even though it's the opposite, and this is the wall of the sled where the brush is in, so the brush is like this. It's possible when the motor is spinning, it's pushing the brush to the side, and that lip is getting caught and not allowing the brush to move. That was kind of a horrible demonstration, but maybe you get what I'm trying to say. So I'm really not sure the longevity of just leaving it the way I did and not grinding down the side of that. So I think what I'm gonna do, before I put any gasket seal under this one, because you can see the original gasket is pooched. So before I put any gasket seal under there, I kind of want to put this through a test to kind of simulate wipers running for a period of time and see if it stops working, see if a brush pops out. I would also like to simulate like turning it on, turning it off, because those are the abrupt moments where it might be more likely to get hung up. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the positive alligator clip, just hook it up to the highest speed, and let it run for like 10 minutes. Now wait a sec, folks. Aha. It doesn't work. It stopped working. Interesting. And look at that. That negative 0.2. That ground brush came off again. You know, that is interesting. Why in the fuck? Alright, it seemed like a victory. But this is kind of exactly what I was worried about. So there is something more to this. It's not that simple. We're going to try and figure out if in fact that brush did come off again. So I pulled everything apart again, checked continuity between the brush and where the connection comes into the brush. Everything is good. So I am really, like, this one is a little bit corroded. So I was kind of worried about that one, but I mean, that's one of the positives, so like there's no reason it would have stopped the other speeds from working. So I'm really stumped. Everything on here tests okay. I could check each winding individually, but honestly everything looks okay. So I just don't, like, the magnet wire isn't burnt up. It doesn't have that smell. It's all, the coil is still fine. It's all still good. Like, I don't see any reason why this wouldn't turn on. So that's why I'm kind of confused right now. So like I said, I'm gonna put this back together the same way I did the last time, and we're gonna test it again. Alright, so I got it all reassembled, and I just tested it, and it does work. So before I go any further, I'm just going to run a resistance check and check what resistance we should have on a running motor. So to one of the speeds, we got about 4. We got 1 ohm there and 4 ohms there. So I grabbed a marker. Let's quickly test again. About 1 ohm on the left side and 4 ohm. So I'm just going to mark those on the motor just as a reference for me in the future. Now, I'm really confused why it's not working. I'm assuming it must be a bad connection or just a shoddy connection, either from, well, it's related to the ground, so it's the ground brush, because when it stops working, none of them work. But there's no current going through it, so it's not like it's falling short or anything like that. The resistance does change as well, though. I don't know. We're going to put this plate on. We're going to do some tests and see if I can get it to stop working again. Should you see my speed? Want to find right there? Alright, so it's working just fine for now. So what I'm going to do is just beat it around some. Simulate hard bumps in the car. Alright. Let's see if that did anything. Of course it didn't. Alright. So, I mean, we fixed the motor, but we didn't, I don't think we fixed the main issue here. I believe there is an issue in the connection for the ground brush, and because before, when it stopped working, I tested with the ground both on the chassis and the ground from the ground pin, so I don't think it's the ground pin to the chassis. I believe it's actually the ground connection to the brush, which is kind of weird because that connection looked solid, but it could be wrong. So I think what would be best, well, first get it in a position where the motor is not working, get it back to that state, and then carefully take it apart so it stays in that state so you can test further. But I mean, for now it's working. So in order to not drag this video out any longer than it's already been, we'll call it an intermittent success. But anyways, folks, if you enjoyed, got any information out of that, would like to see more shit like this, please leave a like and subscribe. I appreciate it. Have a good one.